very ordinary person, a wife and a mother of one. But I firmly believe that God does not call the equipped, He equips the called. I certainly have felt His calling over the last 7 years. I was very honoured and privileged to be shown a small creche in an informal settlement on the West Rand. And what really tore at my heart was not the creche children, but the children outside of the creche, looking in at the children that were being fed and were playing in the creche. I truly felt God's anguish at that moment. A like-minded bunch of us got together and we made sandwiches and juice and took it through to the informal settlement once a week. And that was the beginning of Africa Food for Thought. I promised God every Tuesday, and little did I know that 7 years later I would be giving God my home, my family, and most of my life. Today, Africa Food for Thought is a non-profit organization run largely by volunteers and is essentially focused on equipping and supplying school feeding programs. We are also involved in a number of community projects, self-help and empowerment projects, and shelters and halfway houses. Our aim is to help those who need it the most, the vulnerable and marginalized. We have been registered with South African Revenue Services as a tax-exempt public benefit organization in terms of Section 30 of the Income Tax Act. Early in 2004, a small group of volunteers got together and made sandwiches and juice for approximately 70 children in one small informal settlement on the West Rand. We had great fun and fellowship preparing the food. We would cling wrap the sandwiches in case it rained, but in all the time we served here, about 1.5 years, I think we only got rained upon 2 or 3 times. Serving the children once a week, this project soon became a whole lot bigger, and by winter we were serving over 120 children with soup or stew twice a week. And then a miracle. A food processing company offered us fresh, free processed vegetables. It started with just 1 garbage bag per week. Then it was a carload twice a week. Then a car, a trailer and bakkie load 3 times a week. And eventually Africa Food for Thought stepped out in faith and bought a Kia 1.2-ton workhorse. We call her Mattie, named after Matthew 25 verse 35. For when I was hungry you fed me, and when I was thirsty you gave me something to drink. Many nights my family and friends would cook until 2 o'clock in the morning so that none of the vegetables would be wasted. Fun times. As our reputation and supply of vegetables grew, so we started assisting schools in the area to start their own soup feeding programs. Starting with one school in Kagiso early in 2005, we have continued to grow at an amazing rate, and currently we are helping 12 schools to feed almost 11,000 children on every school day. Still focusing on the West Rand, we have expanded to include Mildersdrift and parts of Soweto, especially in Zola, Dobsonville and Brown Fisherville. We built a soup kitchen onto our house in order to accommodate all the food that was beginning to be donated, and we also erected a large walk-in cold room so that no vegetables were wasted. We stopped cooking the vegetables ourselves, and this task was taken on by parents and SGB members at the schools. This allowed us to focus our attention on the other needs in the areas that we serve. In the early days, I would deliver the vegetables myself, as we could not afford staff in those days. Whilst delivering vegetables to the schools, many of which are located in or near informal settlements, I would often come across the distressing sight of toddlers and young children roaming the dusty roads with no adult supervision whatsoever. Often these children were half naked and looked very neglected. Many times their only companion was a skinny, mangy dog. This tore at my heart, and we decided to start partnering with local creches, usually run from a woman's shack, first focusing on nutrition. Starting with just 1 creche in 2006, we currently support 9 creches, impacting just over 300 children. The schools that we supported soon made us aware of children whose only meal was the one they received at school. On Mondays, they would arrive at the feeding program ravenous, and many fainted whilst in the queue. These children were the most marginalized, the most vulnerable. I felt strongly that God wanted us to help them in a very special way, and so our Orphan and Vulnerable Children program began. Starting with just 4 households where parents were incapacitated, absent, or were looking after children other than their own, we are now serving 78 such households. The 8 children that I am still involved with are truly part of my life, and I care deeply for them as if they were my own. As we have grown, the number of team leaders and volunteers have also grown, and they now go out to these children once a month and supply them with their monthly food needs. They also pray with them and for them and help in times of crisis and need. During our work in the various communities that we serve, I encountered a wonderful group of youngsters who are helping the children in the surrounding area of Chepisong by providing after-school training in sports, the youth crime fighters. They were giving the children a meal once a week and wanted our help to expand. Before they met us, they would spend the first part of their morning collecting vegetables and other groceries from a local charity, and the rest of the morning collecting one piece of coal from each home in the area. Then they would cook. Sometimes they would not get enough coal and the children would go hungry. We were privileged to be able to supply them with a quantity of vegetables and other groceries, as well as cooking equipment and gas. They are now a full part of Africa Food for Thought, and about 100 children meet after school for a meal every day, followed by sport, chess, and homework supervision. What a great team they are, and what wonderful work they do with the children, from small beginnings and huge hearts. For the last 3 years, we have hosted a Christmas party for all our orphan and vulnerable children. As there are a number of children in each household, this brings together about 120 children for a fun-filled, carefree day. Usually we have great activities, jumping castles, face painting, Mother and Father Christmas, gifts, great food, and all of that. But when asked what was the best thing about the party, we often hear the grass, playing on the grass. We forget that these children often live in dusty, sandy conditions and don't have access to parks and fields. We hope to be able to host this party every year, as it has such a positive impact on our children. Initially we worked from my home, but as we got bigger, so the need for new premises grew. We no longer could bath, as that was filled with food and clothes, so we became shower people. We moved the offices into a small converted garage in 2009, but within a very short space of time it was too small and we had to move again. We moved into a rented 3-bedroom house in 2011, but we are barely managing to cope even here. We have many vulnerable children on our shortlist, and we would love to be able to help all of them, but literally we are bursting at our seats. We particularly need more storage space for the more than 3 tons of food that we repack and distribute each month. This is the reason for the special fundraising that we are doing, hence the recipe book, filled with tried and trusted recipes submitted by our volunteers, sponsors, friends and contacts. It is a wonderful example of what you can do if you all work together. It is priced at 150 Rand and can be obtained from the office on 011 472 5727 or off our website www.afft.org.za.